Hello, seniors. It's been a while, and I hope you are all in good health for today's another discussion. So let us go on the journey of learning on the field of Philippine politics and governance. Brace yourselves and have a happy learning ahead. States, nations, and globalization. This lesson presents the future role of the state, nations, and globalization in political processes. Moreover, give learners a profound understanding of the evolution of globalization and the ever-changing structure of nation and state. But before we proceed in our discussion, let us first look upon the content standard of the topic. Demonstrate an understanding of politics and political science, governance, political ideologies, power, states, nations, and globalization. For the performance standard, clearly identify a specific political phenomenon and how it can be studied. Lastly, for the most essential learning competency, analyze the relationship among nations and states in the context of globalization. Now that we have already seen the content standard, performance standard, and most essential learning competency, I believe you are now ready for our discussion. A nation which expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization expects that which never was and never will be. By Thomas Jefferson. What is a state? According to De Leon in 2009, as stated by Liao in 2014, a state is a community of nations, numerous, permanently occupying a definite portion of territory, having a government of their own to which the great body of inhabitants render obedience and enjoying freedom from external control. It is a political community that occupies a definite territory, having an organized government with the authority to make and enforce laws without the consent of a higher authority. The term state can be used interchangeably with the country. The state is the most universal and most powerful of all social institutions. The state is a natural institution. Elements of state. The elements of state includes people or population, territory, government, and sovereignty. Liao in 2014 further explains that states are created based on the elements. According to him, if these requirements are not followed or if there is a conflict or issue in one of the elements, the legitimacy of the state is always challenged. He further emphasized that it is important that a state is recognized by the international community because without recognition, its existence, authority, and power are always in doubt. The first element of state is people. The organization of human beings living together as a community. They are bounded with different kinds of culture, beliefs, customs, and traditions. People or populations can be divided into two. The first one is homogeneous. The citizens share common customs, language, and culture. The second one is heterogeneous. The citizens lack common customs, language, and culture. The The second element of state is territory. Territory refers to the territorial domains over which the state exercises control or sovereignty, which includes all the land, sea, and airspace the state exercises jurisdiction on. There can be no state without a fixed territory. People need territory to live and organize themselves socially and politically. It may be remembered that the territory of the state includes land, water, and air, or the space above. The modern states differ in their sizes. Territory is necessary for citizenship. As in the case of population, no definite size regarding the extent of area of the state can be fixed. There are small and big states. The third element of state is the government. Government is an agency to which the political ideology of the state is expressed and carried out. Government refers also to the institutions or agency or instrumentalities through which the state maintains social order, provides public services, and enforces binding decisions. States need government to help make and enforce public policy. Without government, the lives of citizens would be a war of every man. The last element of state is sovereignty. Sovereignty is the power of the state to enforce the law over its people within its jurisdiction and demand obedience from them. It is the supreme and final legal authority above and beyond which no legal power exists. If a state lacks sovereignty, it cannot make or execute effective public policy. There are two types of sovereignty. The first one is internal sovereignty, which is the power of the state to rule within its territory. The second one is external sovereignty. It is the freedom of the state to carry out its activities without subjection to or control by other states. The duties of the state. The first duty of the state is to provide peace and order and national security. Second one, to provide political harmony or good laws. The third one is to provide social justice for the people. It also includes economic development, as well as individual and collective development of the people. An independent state has space or territory which has internationally recognized boundaries, has people who live there on an ongoing basis, has economic activity and an organized economy. A country regulates foreign trade and domestic trade and issues money, has the power of social engineering such as education, has a transportation system for moving goods or services, has a government which provided public services and police power, has sovereignty. No other state should have power over the country's territory, has external recognition. A country has been voted into the club by other countries. Let us tackle the concept of nation. A nation is a group of people bound together by certain characteristics and shares the same history, ancestry, culture, and language. Nations were imagined communities, that is, imagined as both inherently limited and sovereign. It is imagined because even though people do not know each other or do not meet all the members, they share the same common history, culture, language, and tradition that are practiced by every member. They have the same feelings of belongingness and talk the same events that were part of their history, even though they were miles away from one another. A nation is an imagined community because regardless of the actual inequality and exploitation that may prevail in each, the nation is always conceived as a deep, horizontal comradeship. It is a large group of people who are bound together and recognize a similarity among themselves because of a common culture. In particular, a common language seems important in creating nationhood. Distinction between state and nation. State and nation are often used interchangeably. Although many people think they are the same, in context and concept the words nation and state are vastly different from one another. State and nation's functionalities and attributes can be used to analyze the difference between the two terms. So here is the comparison between a state and a nation. For state existed not only at present but also in the ancient period, while for nation it is modern phenomenon. Another one, for state it is legal political. It also includes people organized for law within a definite territory. A state must be sovereign, and lastly, inhabited by heterogeneous groups of people, while on the other hand, nation is racial cultural. People psychologically join together within common will to live together. People continue as a nation even if they do not remain sovereign. And lastly, a nation is inhabited by homogeneous groups of individuals. Globalization. Because the world is already so connected, most people don't notice globalization every single day. But the world is getting smaller, and people need to understand what globalization means for the future of the world. Thus, it is essential to learn and understand what is globalization really is. Meaning of globalization. Globalization is a process of interaction and integration among people, companies, and governments of different nations, a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. Globalization is also known as global industrialism. It's a process of foregoing international, political, economic, religious, and sociocultural interconnections that promotes every countries in the global market. More simply, globalization refers to an open flow of information, technology, and goods among countries and consumers. This openness occurs through various relationships, from business, geopolitics, and technology to travel, culture, and media. Let us tackle the forms of globalization. Because of trade developments and financial exchanges, we often think of globalization as an economic and financial phenomenon. Nonetheless, it includes a much wider field than just flowing or goods, services, or capital. The first one is economic globalization. Economic globalization is the development of trade systems within transnational actors such as corporations or NGOs. Economic globalization refers to the interconnectedness of economies through trade and the exchange of resources, and further explains that effectively, no national economy really operates in isolation, which means national economies influence each other. Economic globalization also means that there is a two-way structure for technologies and resources. For example, countries like the Philippines will sell their technologies to countries which lack this, and natural resources from developing countries are sold to the developed countries that need them. The second one is cultural globalization. Cultural globalization refers to the interpenetration of cultures, which therefore means nations adopt principles, beliefs, and costumes of other nations, losing their unique culture to a unique, globalized supra-culture. Cultural globalization is the sharing of ideas, meanings, hobbies, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. This process is marked by the common consumption of cultures that have been diffused by the internet, popular culture media, and international travel. The third one is political globalization. Political globalization refers to the amount of political cooperation that exists between different countries. Political globalization means also to the growth of the worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. That system includes national governments, their governmental and intergovernmental organizations, as well as government-independent elements of global civil society, such as international non-governmental organizations and social movement organizations. One of the key aspects of the political globalization is the declining importance of the nation-state and the rise of other actors on the political scene. Another form of globalization is technological globalization. Technological globalization is the phenomenon by which millions of people are interconnected thanks to the power of the digital world via platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Skype, or YouTube. Technology is the vital force in the modern form of globalization. Technology has revolutionized the global economy and has become critical competitive strategy. It has globalized the world, which drive all the countries to more ethical standards. Technology has helped us in overcoming the major hurdles of globalization and international trade, such as trade barrier, lack of common ethical standard, transportation costs and delay in information exchange, thereby changing the marketplace. Another one is ecological globalization. Ecological globalization accounts for the idea of considering planet Earth as a single global entity, a common good all societies should protect since the weather affects everyone and we are all protected by the same atmosphere. Ecological globalization only means that people around the world should protect the ecology. Benefits of globalization. Globalization impacts the world in many ways, but those who decide to take on international expansion find several benefits. The first one is to access to new cultures, followed by the spread of technology and innovation, lower cost of products, higher standards of living across the globe, as well as access to new markets and access to new talent. Access to new cultures. Globalization makes it easier than ever to access foreign culture, including food, movies, music, and art. This free flow of people, goods, art, and information is the reason you can have Philippine food delivered to your apartment as you listen to your favorite UK-based artist or stream a Korean movie. The spread of technology and innovation. Many countries around the world remain constantly connected, so knowledge and technological advances travel quickly. Because knowledge also transfers so fast, this means that scientific advances made in Asia can be at work in the United States in a matter of days. Lower costs of products. Globalization allows companies to find lower cost ways to produce their products. It also increases global competition, which drives prices down and creates a larger variety of choices for consumers. Lowered costs help people in both developing and already developed countries live better on less money. Higher standards of living across the globe. Developing nations experience an improved standard of living thanks to globalization. According to the World Bank, extreme poverty decreased by 35% since 1990. Further, the target of the first Millennium Development Goal was to cut the 1990 poverty rate in half by 2015. This was achieved 5 years ahead of schedule in 2010. Across the globe, nearly 1.1 billion people have moved out of extreme poverty since that time. Access to new markets. Businesses gain a great deal from globalization, including new customers and diverse revenue streams. Companies interested in these benefits look for flexible and innovative ways to grow their business overseas. Access to new talent. In addition to new markets, globalization allows companies to find new, specialized talent that is not available in their current market. For example, globalization gives companies the opportunity to explore tech talent in booming markets. For the performance tasks and other activities, your teacher will provide you the appropriate tasks to be done by depending on the activities agreed upon or needed by your learners. You may contact your teachers for your performance tasks and activities. Do you have any questions? For questions, clarifications, you may leave it on the comment section. You may also ask your teacher your questions if needed. Guess it's time to say goodbye for now, my dear learners. See you next time.